We're going to start baby milestones, birth to 12 months. Okay, we're going to kind of go through this on by 2 months, by 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year. And we're going to start with by 2 months what they should and where we're going to see milestones and what they should and shouldn't be doing. Socially, during that first 2 months, the baby will start calming down when it's spoken to. They'll look in your face. They seem happy when you walk in a room. They'll start recognizing the sound of your voice, smiles when you talk or when you smile at them. The language and communication, they make sounds other than crying, and they react to the loud sounds. So if they hear something, a big boom or something, there might be a jerk or something, they'll respond to it. They watch you as you move. They look at toys for several seconds. Now this is more towards the end of the 2 months period that they'll start kind of really following a toy and doing things. Obviously they're not going to do that first 2 to 4 weeks. They look at the movement and the physical development. Holds head up when on the tummy. When you start doing tummy time, they'll be able to lift, maybe just for a few seconds or so, but they will be able to lift their head some. Generally, you don't want to do more than about, especially at this period, at the first month, no more than just 3 minutes or so of 3 to 5 minutes of tummy time, and that can start building up. And you want to start building it up. They'll move both their arms and legs and open hands briefly. To help your baby to learn and grow during this period, respond in a positive way, give them encouragement, good sounds. We all talk like a baby when we start talking to a baby. Go, oh, you're doing so good, that kind of thing. They respond to that. Talk and read and sing to your baby to help them develop and understand for language. It also, as you start making a pattern for sleeping, even at this young age, more so at 4 months, but even at a younger age, if you read a book every night to your baby to bed, or you sing a lullaby every night before they go to bed, even at this young of age, it becomes a pattern and helps with them with sleep later. Spend time cuddling and holding your baby. This will help them feel safe and cared for. Sadly speaking, this right here is such a responsive to at this early age that there's a study done in orphanages that after about this first milestone period, that you could walk into an orphanage and it's totally quiet. Because they don't get any response to crying, they stop crying because they know that they're not going to get a response. So this tells you how important it is to encourage and give your baby a response when they're fussy, when they're laughing, or when they're crying, is to give them a response of something so that they know that you're there and that they're cared for. Being responsive to your baby helps them learn and grow. Limiting your screen time when you're with your baby helps you be responsive. This is what we look like all the time, is a phone in our face. You can walk in any restaurant, you can walk down the street, no matter what, everyone's got a phone and walking with it and with their head down, not talking to other people anymore. Your baby sees this. You see this as they get older in a restaurant. They're just propped in front of a screen. That's not a good thing either. But they learn this from seeing you even at a young age. If you're on your phone the whole time, you cannot be responsive to your child because your attention is elsewhere. Take care of yourself. Learn to notice and respond to your baby's signals to know what he or she's feeling and needs. Lay baby on tummy with toys at eye level. This gives them that tummy time that's needed. Never leave your baby alone. Babies can get into things before you realize it, even at a very young age. If you're laying your baby down on a blanket for some playtime and some tummy time, you need to be down there with them. You go off for a kitchen or something, you come back and they have either got a toy over them, a blanket pulled over their face, especially at this young age. Feed only breast milk or formula about the first 6 months. Have routines for sleeping and feeding. I mentioned that just a minute ago as far as reading to your baby or singing to your baby. Developing a routine helps them later, one, know the expectations for themselves, know what's going on. Like I said, if you have a pattern to go to bed, they know what's happening. There's not a surprise for them there. And that's huge. That helps the baby to understand exactly what they're going through. Do not shake your baby or allow anyone else to ever. Obviously, there is a thing called shaken baby syndrome that's extremely serious, and it goes to a level of abuse can be, but also It can cause permanent damage. It destroys cells and does not allow enough oxygen in the brain. So it's extremely important. I know that no one would intentionally hurt their baby or shake or anything like this. So if you ever feel like you're getting to a point, and sometimes you will because you're sleep deprived, you're tired, you don't know what to do, a baby has colic and they've been crying for days on end, put the baby in a safe place in a bassinet on their back and go ask for help. If you ever get to feeling at that point, or if there's someone that has your baby that shakes or something, remove your baby from that situation immediately. Never shake your baby. By 4 months. What most babies are doing between that 2 to 4 month period, or during their social and emotional milestones, would be smiles to get attention, chuckles, not maybe a full belly laugh yet, but they'll definitely smile and chuckle and laugh. Looks at you, moves or makes sounds to get your attention. Language and communication, they'll make oohs and ahs. They'll make sounds back when you talk back to them. So if you say, how are you doing? They'll make, oh, yeah, you know, and coo back at you. So they're responding to your voice. The cognitive milestones, they'll learning, thinking, and problem solving. This could be hungry. They'll open their mouth. So when they see the breast coming or they see the bottle coming, they automatically start opening or even reaching for it. They look at the hands with interest, especially I wear nail polish. A baby at that age will definitely start grabbing my fingers and my nails, so they see things differently. Their head and physical development, they hold head steady and without support when you're holding her. Hold a toy when you put it up to their hand. Uses the arm to swing at toys. Bring hands to mouth and pushes up on elbows and during tummy time. This is their beginning, when they're beginning to think about crawling, and they'll get up on their elbows and almost do a rocking kind of thing back and forth, almost like if I could just get my knees to work and my arms up, I would be able to crawl, but not yet. So they're still down here, their legs are not up on their knees yet, but they're starting to do the rocking. Help your baby learn and grow. Provide safe opportunities for your baby to reach for toys. Tummy time is a great activity. You can't keep them on their tummy too long, but they'll let you know they'll get fussy. Flip them over. That's when a playland type mat is great because it's got little toys up there for them to reach at. Talk, read, and sign to your baby. Sign language is extremely important even at this age. You can teach a baby more. You can teach a baby a very simple signs, TT, things like this, even at this very young age, that they will develop, and by the year old and stuff, you're sitting there in a high chair feeding them, they're finished with their meal or they're finished with their carrots or something, and they will give you the sign more. And that starts in a very young development age. So when it says start doing signs with them, obviously, you can do happy, kind of thing and things like this, but actually even start introducing some sign language. And it can be a modified sign language. It doesn't have to be educated sign language. Limit screen time to video calling loved ones. Screens are not recommended for children younger than 2 years old. This again, they see parents right in front of their screen. It's amazing how young a kid will start wanting that screen. I don't know if there's something that they put in these screens that attract eyes or attract your attention, or the colors. But babies, I would say really around the 9-month, they can sit there and swipe, and they'll know how to do that. There's definitely something that they put into these, like cocoa melons and things like that attract a child to sit there and stare and watch, whether it's colors or just the screen itself. So be very careful about your screen time and allowing your baby just to grab your phone and start looking at things, or putting a video on and just putting it in front of it. So be aware and conscious of it. Give your baby safe toys to play with that are easy to hold, like rattles, cloth books, and colorful pictures. Try to keep your baby, try not to keep your baby in swings, strollers, or bouncy seats for too long. He needs time to move and interact with people. Walkers and things like that are great. Johnny bouncies, but you need to be with them on those kind of toys and those kind of events. Really shouldn't be more than 10 or 15 minutes. in any specific position or specific activity. So if they're doing, you don't leave them in a walker and just feed them in the walker and do everything in the walker. They need to be out, they need to be interactive and doing other things. Set steady routines for sleeping and eating. I've covered this in a couple of these sessions, that patterns and routines are extremely important, especially for sleep and eat. So stay on these steady routines. A routine at night might be bath time, story time, bedtime. So, and you do those things every single night to keep them on this routine. Lay your baby on her back and show her brightly covered toys. Move the toy slowly from left to right and up and down as she watches how the toy moves. Sing and talk to your baby as you help her exercise. Move her body for a few minutes. I always find at this age it is great to lay them down and give them massages. Baby oils or baby lotions, obviously whatever your baby can tolerate and stuff, but just to give them and rotate their hips as you're doing it. Pull their arms above their head, pull it kind of a little bit out and stuff where it stretches their bodies out. That's great. It's good for torso. It's also good for their muscles and relaxes them for the night. You know your baby best. Don't wait. If your baby is not meeting one or more milestones and has lost skills or have concerns, talk to your doctor. He'll talk to you each time you go into your appointments with your baby about the milestones of what expectations. Generally, they will put him on a growth chart, him or her on a growth chart. So you'll see where the standard weight is. Your baby would be here, your baby would be up here. But as long as it's within a healthy range, then you're good, and it's meeting the milestones and it's meeting the weight and height restrictions or goals that you want to do. Same thing on milestones. If your baby's not turning over when an age should be, or not sitting up and things like that, talk to your doctor about it. Also, if they're doing something and then suddenly they stop doing it, maybe they're beginning to roll over or they're blowing strawberries out of their mouth. That's very typical at this age. Not that they're going to do that forever, but if they're doing it as to make you laugh, which they will at this age, then suddenly stop. You might want to mention that to your doctor. Why did they stop this all of a sudden? It may just be something you want to watch. It may be something, it could be as serious as their hearing all of a sudden is not up to par. So they'll check their hearing or something. So just kind of stay in tune with your baby and where they're headed and their milestones so that you know when to talk to a doctor about one that might change. By 6 months. This is when the fun actually really, there's fun always with a baby, but it definitely begins at this age because they're little people and they start getting their personalities even more so. The social, they'll know familiar faces. So when someone walks in, a voice is there, they'll recognize it. Look at themselves in the mirror. They laugh out loud, and they even actually start getting the laughter that they'll carry throughout their life, that little bit that you'll recognize later. Language and communication, take turns making sounds with you, blows raspberries like I was just talking about in that last milestone. That was kind of towards the end of that milestone and the beginning of this milestone. They'll make squeaky noises. The cognitive milestones, they'll put things in their mouth to explore them. This goes on from about this age to a year to 14 months, maybe even longer. You'll feel like your baby puts everything they touched in their mouth. That they do. And that is a sensory. That is for them to try to figure out. They're trying to explore. They don't have the wherewithal to know how to use something, and so it just automatically goes to mouth. They'll reaches to grab a toy they want. You might put 2 in front of them at this age. Don't want to overwhelm them with a bunch of toys all around. That's overexerting a child, and it actually leaves them less creative in trying to use a toy the way it should be used, or even creating a way to use the toy by having too much around them. So put 1 or 2 toys and let them reach for what they want. They'll roll now from their tummy to their back. They push up with straight arms when on the tummy and lean on hands to support themselves when sitting. So by this, we were talking about in the milestone. The first one, they're on their elbows and they've got their legs out straight. By this time, they're rolling back and forth, but they're pushing up on their arms now. And that's going to be the beginning of their crawling. As they start doing that, it's really toning their stomach and giving them some muscles in there. At this point, they're sitting up and can sit up and play, and they're using their hands for balance. They may not be real balanced controlled when they lift their hands and start playing with a toy. You might see them even tump over. There used to be a toy that was called that. They don't fall down or something, but babies will. So, how to help your baby learn and grow. Use back and forth play with your body. Read to your baby every day by looking at and talking about colorful pictures in the books or magazines. Point out new things to your baby and name them. Sing to your baby and play music. When your baby looks at something, point to it and talk about it. At this stage, they're getting very curious. Like I said, everything's going in the mouth because they're trying to check things out. They're seeing new sights. You're going for a walk. They're pointing to things. They're not totally understanding what you're saying yet, or what you're saying. Like you can say tree, car, and things like that. No, they're not going to repeat it. They don't quite understand it yet. But that's a development of how you're going to teach them as they get older. And they will start recognizing that. And then pretty soon, when they start verbalizing things, they're going to say, car. And you're going to be like, how'd you know that? It's because you used that and started it at a very young age. They're curious. That first, especially 5 years, we're going through the milestones for a year now. This is the biggest teaching time for your kid between age 1 and 5. Yes, they're going to learn more academically, and they're going to learn math and reading and stuff like this. But this first 5 years is their developmental stage. Help your baby learn and grow. Put your baby on her tummy and back for both toys, just out of reach. Make them work for things. Encourage her to roll over, to reach for these toys. Learn to read your baby's moods. If he's happy, keep doing what you're doing. If he's upset, stop and go to something else. That really comes into play when you're using different apparatuses such as walkers, strollers, jumping Johnnies. I hate to even use that example because it's not always very good on their hips and things, and it should be used with caution, but they are out there. But different things like that, even down to a swing, an infant swing set or rocker. You want to use these for minimal time. If they're enjoying it, that's fine, but don't leave them in there for too long. But if they get upset, take a break from that. They've had too much of it. Talk with your baby's doctor about when or to start solid foods at this age, which we've discussed a little bit on solid foods, and breast milk or formula is still the most important source of food. So don't supplement formula or breast milk, whatever you're feeding your child, for food. The food is just an additional. First feed your baby with the formula or the breast milk, and then give them a treat or some kind of introduction into solid foods. But it's not to replace it. Learn when your baby's hungry, pointing to foods, opening their mouth, spoon, or getting excited when they're seeing food. Let them be very exploratory on this. I mean, obviously they're not branching, they're just starting to branch out and they're putting everything in their mouth, so you have to be careful. But let them explore new things and talk to them about it. Help your baby learn. She can calm down, talk softly, hold, rock, or sing. Or let her suck on your fingers or a pacifier, or offer her favorite toy or stuffed animal. Babies can learn to start self-soothing. Now that doesn't mean that you leave your baby in a room crying and say they can self-soothe. That's not it at all. But babies are learning at this stage to self-soothe. So if you're talking softly, if they're upset and you're talking softly, they might be in the bassinet or in the bed. They're out of the bassinet by this age. But if they're in the bed, talk softly to them. Read them a book from even outside of their crib so that they can understand how to start self-soothing instead of just being picked up and held automatically. Hold your baby up while she sits. Let her look around and give her toys to look at as she learns to balance herself. Okay, now we're by 9 months, so we're kind of getting into they're really becoming a person and people. They're not walking. They're beginning to crawl at this stage. So what you see socially, milestones, they're shy. This stage, they might not want to go to strangers. When they're on their mom, they're not walking yet or anything like this, but they're right there on you, and people are coming up and saying, "Oh, can I hold?" Or family especially does this. Can I hold her? And the baby's turns and puts their head totally the other way. They don't want anything to do with strangers. This is perfectly normal in this age group. They show several facial expressions like happy, sad, angry, or surprised. These aren't on cue, like you're not going to say, show me your angry face and then go angry, but they're starting to respond emotionally outwardly at this age, beyond just crying. They'll look when you call the name. At this stage, they're recognizing their name. React when you leave. So that might be they cry. That's especially in daycares, especially if they're not used to daycare settings. Maybe they go once a Sunday to the church daycare. They're not used to it on a regular basis. They may cry the first few times. They do get used to it, and actually it becomes a memory that it's a good memory generally that they want to go to. And that will take about 6 weeks during this phase to get them to remember, oh, this is where we go, this is daycare, this is church, whatever, that they do start remembering it. But it may go a lot longer for that stage if you're having to leave them in childcare for extended periods every day. Yes, they get used to it, but they also get more clingy. So be aware of that. They'll smile or laugh and play peekaboo at this age, make different sounds, kind of start thinking that they're talking and they're saying your name. And this is why every mama and daddy said that they said my name first. Because they are going mama, 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 da 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 da. They are referring to that person, just not fully understanding the full name yet. Lift arms to be picked up. They look for objects when dropped and out of sight, spoon or a toy. Bangs two things together. They may also start, the banging is definite, but they'll also even start maybe putting things inside something, understanding that something goes in and out, so they'll take things, do that. Movement and physical development, gets to a sitting position by themselves at this age, moves things from one hand to the other, uses fingers to rake food towards himself, and sits without support. So you get a lot more freedom here, especially when they're eating. If they're eating at a high chair or they're eating in a walker, which is not unheard of, but they are more apt to be able to put things down on a tray and then pick up and feed and push away and stuff. Again, this is not replacing formula or your breast milk. This is just an additive, but at this stage they might be able just to sit there with their fruit, with their slice of mango or something. You don't leave them with a piece of meat or something though at this age. It's time for your baby's 9-month developmental screening. This is probably done with your doctor and through one of your regular checkups. And we didn't point out on this, but I do want to point out throughout this first year your baby will be receiving vaccinations. And that's an area that you need to talk with your doctor about. Some they perform immediately at birth, but most of them are done throughout the first year of birth and specifically at the 9-month point. You'll have additional ones, and those are something you need to talk to your doctor about. Help your baby learn and grow. Repeat your baby's sounds and say simple words using those sounds. Place toys on the ground or on the play mat just out of reach. Encourage the baby to crawl, scoot. Teach your baby to wave bye-bye or shake the head no or yes. This is obviously at this age, they're becoming little people. They're responding to you. You need to be their teacher, their leader, without being aggressive or anything. Talk kindly to them, encourage them. If you immediately shut down a baby and it's like no or something at this age, now I know that will happen if it's a hindrance to their health. They're starting to crawl and get around. They're starting to grab at plugs. You're definitely baby proofing by this age to do it. But if you stunt that in them where you're yelling or screaming or getting onto them constantly, it squashes their developmental and their creative. So just be aware of it. Always talk in a soothing voice and be encouraging. Play games such as peekaboo. A lot of times at this stage, they think when their hands are covering their face that you can't see them, and they really believe that. So encourage it. Play peekaboo and let them know when they open their eyes and they see you. Even up until 2 years old, they will hide behind a curtain and think that you can't see them behind the curtain. So this starts at this age, and that's an example of going from a 9-month peekaboo to a 2-year-old still playing peekaboo with behind a sheer curtain, and they think that you can't see. So it's fun to see that this actually translates even a year, several months later. Play games such as my turn, your turn, pass toys back and forth. This is all, again, teaching them and learning exactly who's my turn, your turn, sharing. You don't think at 9 months that they're getting that in, but it is, and you just keep developing that month after month. Read to your baby. This can be talking or pictures and pointing to them. Remember to limit screen time and video calling just to loved ones. I know that this is huge in this society, and I'm going to talk about it under each milestone to not overdo it with screen time. But we do have the luxury of having FaceTime. So with that, and loved ones are out of town, live far away, you're able to actually let the child begin to know a grandmother that lives in another state or something. So it is extremely important. You should hold the phone or the iPad or whatever you're doing screen time. Don't give it to the baby especially at this stage. In fact, it's probably not a good idea, even when they get older, that you're in control of the screen. It's not their screen. Later, that typically results in them grabbing it, wanting it, carrying it around, taking your phone, losing your phone, breaking your phone, or anything like this. So just limit that. But it is a good tool, and used in the right way can be very beneficial. Find out about choking risk and safe foods for your baby. Let him practice feeding himself with his fingers in a small cup of water. That's I mentioned earlier. Put a few things on their tray. Let them start experimenting. You're probably past the stage of having to introduce one thing for every 3 days. By this time, they've gone through that. You know what they like and what they don't like. You know what foods they're gonna snack on. Say Cheerios or something like that. Give them some options and let them start picking. Sit next to your baby and enjoy mealtime together. Expect spills, learning, and messy and fun. Obviously, family mealtime is extremely important, especially in this day in society that we all need to sit down as a family, and this starts at this age. So when you put them in the high chair, and if you have another kid that they're sitting at the table, mom and dad are sitting there, and do it as a family. Do get ready for a mess. Probably best way to feed a baby at this age is down to a diaper, and put a plastic bib. They're not plastic, they're actually made of a material that's washable and dishwashable. I can't think of it right now. Don't put a cloth bib on them because that's just going to be a big old mess. But put a bib, let them go crazy. They're going to throw it on the floor. They're going to experiment. They're going to be squishy in it. At this stage, by now, you can be giving them fruit, cutting it up, cutting raspberries in half. Do not do grapes without cutting them up good. Even blueberries, because they can get caught in the throat. Smush them first at this stage. But let them explore and really start having fun with food. Ask for behaviors that you want. For example, instead of saying don't stand, say time to sit. Move things into a positive light instead of everything being no, don't, can't kind of thing. Let it either give them choices in this area, and obviously both choices is going to be that you want them to sit down. So, but you want to be able to, instead of saying don't do something, about how about we sit here, or would you like to sit over here? Either way, they're going to sit, but they get the choice of where they want to sit. Help your baby get used to foods with different tastes and textures, and say a quick and cheerful goodbye instead of sneaking away. It's an easy ploy to fall into about, oh, they're busy right now, I'll just pop out the door and they won't even see me go. When they turn around to look for mom, they're going to know you're gone. It's much better, and as hard as it is to say bye, I'll be right back, or I'll be back later, or Miss Amanda's going to take care of you while I go. Even though they may scream and start saying, no, mommy, no, and stuff like this, it's better for them to know that they can trust you, and that when you do say you're going to leave, that you're going to come back, because the next time you're going to come back, and the next time you're going to come back, and then he's going to know that when you say, I'm leaving and I'll be back, that you're coming back. By 12 months. Okay, this is the fun. At this point, by the time we get to 12 to 14 months in this stage, they're going to start walking. So the real fun begins. Play games with you like patty cake. They will actually do the full hand patty cake, roll them up, and they'll throw them in the pan. They're good at this one by now. Language and communications, they'll wave bye-bye. Call a parent mama or dada, and by this time they're really meaning mama or dada. Before they were saying it because they had heard it, which is important, but now they're bringing it down to a true word, true name, and true person. Understands no, pauses briefly, or stops when you say it. That means that as they're maybe walking by now, if they're not, they're getting close to it, and they're about to touch something they don't need to touch, and you say no, they'll jerk, they may look at you, they may still touch it, but there'll be a pause before they go. Put something in a container like a block or cup. I talked about this little because that starts around in between the 9 and 12 month phase, where they'll start learning how something goes in, out. Looks for things that you say, that sees you hide under a toy or a blanket. They may not be able to find it if you hide it without them looking, but if they're looking at you and they see you put it under a blanket, they've realized now it's under the blanket. So they do have that cognitive level. Movement and physical development, they pull up to stand. They'll especially do this around ottomans and things like this where they're starting to pull up, tables. Another thing you need to start doing is safety and security in your home for corners, sharp objects, cabinet doors. Those are probably locked by now, but definitely by this stage. Drinks from a cup without a lid as you hold it. Yes, they can. I would really still suggest sippy cups and straws at this stage just because of mess, but they can start doing that. Pick things up between the thumb and pointer finger like small bits of food, and that's what we just talked about, Cheerios and things like that where they can start picking up. Even when you're laying food out in that kind of environment for a child where you might not have eyes on them at all times, be sure that you only put a few of them. You don't pour a whole cup of Cheerios out there and expect that baby not to just keep putting them in their mouth. Teach your baby wanted behaviors. Show her what to do and use positive words and give her hugs and kisses when you want her to do. This is things that we want them and encourage them to do, and that can be even at this age, at 12 months, a wanted behavior might be a reaction of when you leave, how you want that to go. It might be when someone shows up, they're kind of getting past. They're still very skittish because at this age they'll kind of hide behind your legs and things when strangers come around. But you want them to recognize and to want to go to Grandma and Grandpa. So we want to encourage that. When Grandma and Grandpa walk in, especially if they haven't seen them in a while at 1 year old, they may not recognize them right away if they're out of town grandparents. So you want to encourage them to say, go to Grandma and stuff, which is really hard because you don't want them to go into a stranger. But just encourage wanted behavior and give them the reasons behind that, and give them kisses when they do it and things, so that they know the difference between this is something that's a wanted behavior that I want to go to, and this is a danger area. Talk or sing to your baby about what you're doing. Build on what your baby tries to say. Redirect your baby quickly and consistently by giving her a toy or moving her if she is getting into things. Say no for behaviors that are dangerous. And that kind of all goes along with it. You want to encourage your baby to explore new things, to be creative. You don't want to squash them on everything. Like you've just put all the toys away and they start going towards the toys. If you yell no right away, they jerk and they think and they look around. They're like, why? You just let me play with this later. Maybe instead, you can encourage them not to have, you can put only a few toys out at a time to let them play with, instead of having all the toys out. Then when it's pickup time, instead of you picking them up and putting them away and telling them, no, you can't have them, you let them help you put them away and say, we're going to put these away and we're going to go do this. Maybe it's bath time, maybe it's feeding time, whatever it is, you want to do it in an encouraging way. Give your baby a safe place to explore. Respond with words when your baby points to interesting things you see, such as a truck, bus, or animals. Again, I mentioned that earlier. We had already started pointing when we're going for a walk. I think we were in the 4 to 6 month range in that. Saying car and stuff, you're continually reinforcing this as they get older. And this is a perfect example at this age that we're pointing to interesting things, such as a truck and a car. You might be getting more specific at this point. Instead of everything being a car, you do start pointing out that it's a truck, a bus, or a car. Give your baby time to get to know a new caregiver. Bring a favorite toy, a stuffed animal, or a blanket. Give your baby pots and pans or small instruments like a drum or cymbal. Encourage your baby to make noises. This is obviously great. Obviously, if they're going to a new caregiver, a church, or even a new daycare center, take something that belongs to them, a little binky or something. By this age, they'll have one, whether that be a blanket, a toy, or a pacifier. Give your baby water, breast milk, or plain milk. Only give up to 4 ounces a day of 100% fruit juice. In fact, I would encourage you, even at this age, to cut your fruit juices in half by water. They'll want fruit juice soon enough, and especially there's so many places out by this age you're going to be getting them out and eating out and stuff that there is fruit juice. Just cut it in half by water for a while. Do not give your baby sugary beverages such as fruit drinks, soda, and sports. Flavored melts. Give your baby, get used to foods with different tastes and textures, and give different foods again and again. Sometimes your baby may, at this stage, may spit out something. I'm going to use an olive, not a pitted one, but an olive for an example. It's got a different flavor than they've probably tasted up until this point. Everything's been pretty bland, and an olive can be pretty stringent, depending on which one you use. Got a salty, a briny flavor. They may not even take to it at first. Generally, 9 times out of 10 though, within a few tries, a baby loves olives and pickles and things. So unless they're just one that's never going to like that kind of thing, but for the most part, they do start enjoying that type of food because of those very reasons. They are kind of more pungent. So try it again and again. It may be, your kid just may not like crawfish kind of thing. So stop. You don't have to keep doing that. For more information on Milestones, you can go to the CDC. That's obviously a very good website for everything with your baby, from car seats to proper sleeping to safety, but also for Milestones. So anyway, that is the conclusion of our class, and I appreciate y'all being here, and hopefully you've learned something about the milestones of the first year.